Generally, blue skies all the way. It is cloudier for Scotland and Northern Ireland. There's a little bit of rain around. There's a weather front straddling Scotland and Northern Ireland. High pressure gathering in from either side. They're ringing out that weather front. Still, though, thick enough to provide quite a cloudy scene for much of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. May even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle here across Northern Ireland. A few showers in the far north. Much of central and northeast Scotland dry and sunny, and then lots of sunshine for England and Wales. It is quite gusty across the southwest of England. Temperatures getting into the mid or high teens, likely to reach 20 Celsius across parts of West Wales. Further north, not quite as warm because we've got more cloud around. Still providing a little bit of rain and drizzle for the north coast of Northern Ireland into southwest Scotland. May see a few spots in Glasgow. The odd shower drifting through Caithness, Sutherland up towards Orkney into this evening too. But generally it's a dry evening for most of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a cracking end to the day for most of England and Wales. There is this breeze, as I said, providing some gusty conditions, bouncing over the hills in southwest England. That is quite noticeable, but generally we'll keep the clear skies through the nights. Might see a little bit of mist and fog forming. The clouds should break up a little more for Northern Ireland through the nights, but staying quite thick over eastern Scotland. Could see some drizzly rain along the east coast, pushing down towards the southeast for morning time. Temperatures will fall away with those clear skies. Rural spots may just dip close to freezing. Towns and cities starting at 3 to 5 degrees. So yes, a chilly start to Thursday, but again, plenty of sunshine. Should be a sunny day for Northern Ireland tomorrow. Still quite cloudy over central and eastern Scotland. A little bit of drizzly rain possible here, but brighter skies across the far northwest. And again, for most of England and Wales, it will be sunny and warm, just maybe not quite as warm as today. That's all for now. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benivan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, you talk about historical figures. There's a couple of historical figures sat right at the side of you. I think you should stick them pair on a £5.
We're not on a banknote.
Yeah, on a £5 note, a couple of rainbows on, and Bob's your uncle. I mean, it's just ridiculous, mate. I mean, Winston Churchill, one of our greatest heroes of all time, he led us to victory. If it weren't for Sir Winston, we'd all be...
Who was that? You can't see that on your screen.
Is that you, Dobney?
That's me, Martin. He's got a £5 note.
You look like...
Hey, they call you 30p, you're £10.
Family, yeah, changed my name there. Have we got a chopper in Nigel?
Hey, how come Nigel has got the £50
That's inflation.
note?
That's inflation.
Excellent. It should be a euro.
No, I'm not on it.
No, it's just not. It's again. It's
£10 chopper.
No, yeah.
There you go. Thank you very much, whoever did that mischief. And by the way, Nigel Nelson should be on a euro. People like Winston Churchill stopped real Nazis, and now they call people like you Nazis, because they've lost context.
What's his occupation? Birdwatcher.
Yeah.
Listen, mate, these people need to get a grip. You know, the people in my community are incredibly proud of our country. They're very patriotic. They sing the national anthem, they fly the flag, and when they see this nonsense and this bird twitcher, whoever it is, I don't know who he is, they get really, really angry. And I'll tell you what they do get angry with, when Nigel Nelson comes out with this nonsense about, you know, our stamps and our coinage changing every so many years.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
We're not wiping out Winston Churchill.
You are.
From history. No,
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're changing a banknote.
No, why
it's not a big deal.
Why aren't you on this show defending Winston Churchill, saying he should be on these banknotes?
I will defend Winston Churchill.
Defend him right now.
He doesn't have to be on every single banknote.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is now 1 o'clock on March the 18th. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Charlie Peters. Well, it was a fiery PMQs with the Prime Minister claiming that the Conservative Party has a problem with Muslims, calling on the Shadow Justice Secretary to get the sack after Nick Timothy's comments following a mass Islamic prayer in Trafalgar Square. Take a listen.
Described it as an act of domination, straight from the Islamist playbook. If we're in my team, it'd be gone. It's utterly appalling. She should denounce his comments and she should sack him.
Well, there you go. Meanwhile, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch took aim at the Prime Minister after Angela Rayner said his government is running out of time.
Prime Minister wants to talk about my leadership. I'm shocked because his former deputy has just fired the starting gun on the race to replace him. And I'll tell him one thing. She and I both agree that this weak man should be replaced by a strong woman.
Elsewhere, the meningitis outbreak is now a national incident as pharmacies are running out of vaccines while these infections are on the rise. We bring you the very latest.
We Hungarians simply think that we are a Christian country. We would like to maintain our identity and we would not like to mix up our civilization pattern and fabric with something else. No.
Well, this is a big exclusive for the channel. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán gives his first British TV interview to GBNews. Miriam Case will be joining us in the studio to discuss.
Meanwhile, in Windsor, the British government sees the King rolling out the red carpet for the Nigerian president as strategically important. But as suicide bombers struck the country on Monday, security could be top of the agenda.
Elsewhere, Morocco have now won the African Cup of Nations 2 months after the final took place. So what on earth is going on there? We'll be explaining more on that later in the show.
There you go. A lot on our plate today. It was a fiery PMQs. I know we said that, but it was. Keir Starmer was asked multiple questions, wasn't he, on the issue of Peter Mandelson and the appointment of him as our ambassador in the States. And he deflected massively, going after the Shadow Justice Secretary.
What's particularly curious about that is that Downing Street has already said on the record that he did not speak to Lord Mandelson before appointing, didn't speak to him personally. So why is he dodging questions about that? It's already on the record. Why can't he just say, no, I didn't? Very curious. Referring to the process instead.
Of course, always the process.
Speak, yes, indeed. Opportunity to speak clearly there, perhaps missed.
But yes, I wonder where Kemi Badenoch stood by Nick Timothy, our Shadow Justice Secretary. Now, he made some comments on Twitter. This all relates back to Twitter. There was a huge Islamic prayer in Trafalgar Square, wasn't there, an iftar, where hundreds of Muslim men, and I believe women as well, were praying. And he took against this. So we're going to be discussing that.
Yes, he described it as an act of domination. A few people have been sharing clips of other religions, other religious people praying in Trafalgar Square. What makes this Islamic prayer different? That's what a lot of critics to Nick Timothy are saying. What do you think? Let us know. gbnews.com/your say, or you can scan the QR code on your screens as well. Looking forward to hearing from you.
We are indeed, so do get in touch. But let's get to the headlines with Sam Francis.
Emily, Charlie, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you. The top story this lunchtime, while Sir Keir Starmer is facing fresh questions over his judgment after admitting mistakes around the appointment of Peter Mandelson. The issue dominated a heated clash with the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch at Prime Minister's questions today, who accused the Prime Minister of ducking responsibility and not doing the work.
3 times I have asked him if the Prime Minister spoke to Peter Mandelson. 3 times he has refused to answer. We can only assume he did not speak to Peter Mandelson. From the documents published, we know he left the questioning of Mandelson's relationship with a convicted paedophile to 2 of Mandelson's closest friends, one of whom was also friends with a convicted paedophile. Asking those questions should have been his job. Why did he fail to do his duty?
As expected, Sir Keir Starmer hit back, turning the attack to Kemi Badenoch's stance on Iran, accusing her of reckless judgment and trying to rush Britain towards conflict.
3 weeks ago, she said we should rush into war. She didn't do the work. She didn't think through the consequences, committing our military to a war without thinking through the consequences is the gravest mistake a leader of the opposition can ever. And she comes back a week later and says, oops, I got that one wrong. She's utterly irrelevant and she's got no judgment.
An explosive meningitis outbreak in Kent has now reached 20 cases, with 2 young people confirmed to have died. Health officials say the speed of the spread is highly unusual, with most cases linked to young adults and close contact settings. Hundreds of students have been queuing for hours for antibiotics, with more than 2,500 doses already given, and a targeted vaccination programme being rolled out on campus. Well, earlier today, Labour Minister Nick Thomas Symonds, says the government is managing the outbreak and following expert medical advice.
The government will continue to be led by the clinical evidence, taking advice from the Joint Committee on Vaccinations and Immunisation, the independent expert group, as to whether we need to expand that vaccination programme further. But I'd also say to anyone who has symptoms, and we're talking about things like headache, fever, and indeed a rash, and indeed there's a list of symptoms on the gov.uk website, please don't hesitate in coming forward and seeking medical attention.
Turning to news in the Middle East, and Israel has said that Iran's intelligence minister Ismail Khatib has been killed in an overnight strike, the second senior figure targeted in as many days. It follows the killing of Iranian security chief Ali Larijani in what appears to be a deepening crisis at the top of Iran's leadership, though Tehran has not confirmed the latest death. Meanwhile, Israel has launched fresh strikes on Beirut today and ordered evacuations in southern Lebanon as fighting with Hezbollah intensifies, the Iranian-backed group. The conflict is also widening across the rest of the region, with US strikes on Iranian targets and retaliatory attacks reported, as civilians are describing living in constant fear. Meanwhile, here in the UK, the government is facing political pressure over its response to the war. Shadow Transport Secretary Richard Holden earlier accused Sir Keir Starmer of spineless leadership.
We should have been in a situation, as Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives argued, to allow the US to use British bases from the start rather than just now, down the line. That's something that apparently Labour had argued about within the Cabinet, but the Prime Minister had such weak and spineless leadership that he couldn't get his own way on. And I think if we'd done that, we'd be in a very different position to where we are now.
Angela Rayner has warned that government plans to make it harder for migrants to settle in the UK are un-British and a breach of trust. Under the proposals, most migrants would have to wait twice as long for permanent residency, rising from 5 to 10 years, with longer waits for some refugees. Ms Rayner says people already in the system are now fearing for their future and accused ministers of moving the goalposts. The Home Office, though, insists the changes are fair and needed to protect public finances, but the plans are facing growing criticism, even from within the own Labour Party. And that comes as thousands of Afghans are still waiting to be resettled here in the UK, more than 5 years after the fall of Kabul, according to the National Audit Office. Nearly 30,000 people are yet to receive a decision, despite almost 38,000 already arriving. The watchdogs called the system chaotic and inefficient, with multiple schemes and departments working at cross purposes. It also warns delays, poor data and lack of housing still pose significant risks, including the threat of homelessness for those resettled. Those are the 1 o'clock headlines. I'll be back with you for more lunchtime news in around half an hour.
Welcome back. It's 1:08. Thank you, Sam, as well. We're going to kick off with a quick update on the situation regarding meningitis. The Prime Minister has now said his thoughts are with those affected by the outbreak in Kent.
Well, this comes as the number of confirmed cases being investigated has now risen to 20.
The government has also launched a vaccination programme for students, as some pharmacies claim to be running out of jabs already.
Well, we're joined now by the GP, Dr Dean Eggett. Dr Dean, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. How concerned should we be by these reports of pharmacies running low on supplies?
Certainly it's a concern. Meningitis is a terrible condition, especially this particular strain that's out there at the moment. Now, I wouldn't panic as a nation, but certainly living in that area, if I was a student in that age group, I would be quite concerned about myself and my friends, and I'd be looking out for each other. If I haven't had the vaccine, which in that age group you won't have had, I would consider whether or not I can access it. But as you say, stocks are low. So the likelihood of getting a vaccine now, if it's not supplied by the government, are pretty low if you're going to look for it privately.
Yeah, there's a few updates just now. 5 schools in Kent are reporting meningitis cases. Apparently, the campus at the University of Kent is a ghost town because students are fleeing the area. Reports this morning of a small baby as well with meningitis. How dangerous can this disease be, and what should people be looking out for?
So meningitis is redness, swelling, inflammation of the lining of the brain. And in this particular instance, we're talking about it being as a consequence of exposure to a bacteria. Now, when that bacteria gets around the brain, it will cause a terrible headache. It will cause the typical features of infection, so achy, sweaty, flu-like. With the infection around the brain, it also makes you feel quite nauseous and vomiting and problems with bright lights and neck stiffness. Now, all of those can happen extraordinarily rapidly. So you might be feeling flu-like at the beginning of the day and feeling pretty dreadful by the end of the day, and possibly even in dire consequences by the next morning. Many people watch out for a rash, thinking that meningitis is a rash. The rash is not meningitis. The rash is a consequence of meningitis. And by the time you've got the rash, it's very late stage. So please look out for those earlier features: headache, nausea, vomiting, problems with bright lights, neck stiffness.
We've also heard some concerns raised by those involved in the outbreak. The owner of the nightclub in Kent saying that they heard from the UK Health Security Agency via an Instagram message when they tried to get in touch via the phone. That line didn't work. A lot of pharmacies also saying they're struggling to get information from the Health Security Agency. Is this becoming a bit of a test for showing how prepared or not the security agency is, and just the health system more broadly?
Well, we know the NHS is in deep trouble. We don't have the capacity for the daily problems, let alone when something like this breaks out. And I think looking back at COVID, we realised that our response was somewhat lacking, and I'd hope that we've learned something from that. It's difficult for me to cope on what's happening centrally with regards to this particular outbreak, but I'd like to think that people are doing everything that they can. And as we look back over time, we will learn lessons from this and figure out how to do better next time. It's just sad that on this occasion, it looks as though there are some mistakes that are already being seen in the public eye.
And are vaccinations given as a course to young children now? I've got a 6-month-old myself. Will he have been vaccinated in his jabs already, or when does it come?
Yes, it's really important to realise that meningitis, as I suggested earlier, is not really just one disease. It can occur as a consequence of different sorts of infections. And in the childhood vaccination programme at the moment, I can think of 5 different vaccines that are used that can protect you from different types of meningitis. In this particular instant, we're talking about meningitis B, and that became part of the routine vaccination schedule from 2015. So the problem is, if you're older than 2015, you won't have been vaccinated. And that's this particular age group. So these are young teenagers and university goers who are in the perfect population for a spread of meningitis, because you're in close contact with each other, you're living in halls of residence, and that's the real rough hotspot for this particular infection. But thankfully, if you're born after the age of 2015, you've already had vaccination against meningitis B.
OK, well, Dr. Dean Eggett, thank you very much. You're a GP. Thanks for your expertise on this one. We're going to be heading over to the Guardian headquarters, aren't we?
We are. I think
There's a protest afoot.
Yes, that's right. They've been gathering outside the Guardian's HQ, accusing the publication of rationalising attacks on a Jewish-owned business.
The campaign group Our Fight claims a recent column in The Guardian on a vandalised bakery in North London trivialised anti-Semitism.
Well, our very own presenter, Patrick Christie's, is at the protest for us now. Patrick, what's the mood and what are they saying outside Guardian HQ?
Yes, well, here I am outside Guardian HQ. As you can see, the police have decided to turn up and there's quite a lot of security here, which is funny, actually, because I thought they believed in open borders in there. But here we are at this demonstration here now in relation to what is deemed to be yet another case of alleged anti-Semitism at The Guardian. And if we pan around here, plenty of people have already turned up, and we're seeing placards here. Are we really here again? 1933, Nazis organised boycott day against Jewish-owned businesses. 2026, campaigners target Jewish businesses in London. And there you go. That's the kind of general mood. But there is a GB News familiar face here, Josh Howie. You've come here. Why are you here today, Josh? Take the shades off. Why not? But there you go. Why are you here today?
I'm here because, frankly, I'm sick of the racism that is being justified by The Guardian. The Guardian, a paper that I proudly used to write for and read, has now got to a place where they're actually publishing articles that says, oh, it's okay if there's a bakery that was, that had a Jewish founder that doesn't even own it anymore. You can smash the windows in there because that's totally fine because Israel, Gaza, and they're supposedly the anti-racists, and they're not.
Okay, yeah, and look, why does it mean so much to everyone here? Is anyone else willing to just explain why you're here? I mean, you've got your Gales bag with you, haven't you?
We've heard for the past couple of years is anti-Zionism isn't anti-Semitism. Well, clearly it is, and that's why I'm here.
Why do you feel so strongly about it, for you personally?
Why do I feel about Israel, about Gales, about what?
Well, about what's going on with the Guardian article and about what's happening maybe in a wider context.
The Guardian, I'm on a group that basically fights, it's called Win the Media. We try and debunk these ridiculous remarks. I do it daily, 3-4 times a day. It's actually exhausting and it's sad. You can't win the media, but we can't not try. So for me, it's really important, and I am going to an Aliyah exhibition at the weekend.
Okay, absolutely. Now, there's a banner that's just emerged here behind us. Sorry, if you might mind. So, stop the new hate movement. Are we really here again? And obviously, they've got the placards here. Stand against the new hate movement. Could I just have a quick chat with one of you about what this really means for you? Is that possible? Yes, thank you very much. And what was your name? Sorry.
Kirpa Patel.
Lovely to meet you. So go on, talk to me a bit about this then.
So what we're seeing in Britain with Miznon and now Gales, they're attacking Jewish businesses, and it's atrocious that the Guardian's article, it literally downplayed what really happened at Gales.
And just elaborate on that. Yeah, so go on, elaborate on that.
Windows were smashed, graffitis on the wall. It was a pure attack on the Jewish community yet again. And the Guardian just completely twisted it.
And do you think there's a real sense that actually that for a lot of Jewish people out there at the moment, they're just not really safe?
No, they're not. They're not. We saw the Manchester attack. We've seen attack after attack, Bondi Beach. We've seen more attacks since the war with Iran. Throughout the world, and Jews are just not safe wearing their Star of David. They're not safe having a business, going out openly being Jewish. So it's not British to be anti-Semitic, and I'm surprised that the British haven't woken up to this.
I think there is a sense, really, that people, like you say there, haven't quite woken up to this just yet. Can I just pan around and speak to somebody else? Anyone else? You obviously feel very strongly about this, just quickly.
Absolutely. Well, we're here because of the emergence of anti-Semitism over the last few decades, and much of it has been fueled by The Guardian. And it's really been growing way before 7th of October, and probably since 9/11, where the left suddenly decided that the Palestinians were the Uber victims and Jews were the villains. And conspiratorial anti-Semitism exists on the left and the right, and it's The Guardian that has done more than anybody to promote it on the left.
Okay, all right, we'll come back to you. Look, obviously, I'm going to be reporting here for a while, and I'm going to be doing a little package from my show, 9 to 11 p.m. You might have heard a toot of a car horn there in support. There's plenty going to be happening here as well, so you might want to come back to me shortly, because I think there are a couple of plans in place so that they can make their feelings especially known to the people in The Guardian. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Patrick. Appreciate your time there. And also Josh, the host of Free Speech Nation. Now, bit of context there. That's a Gales cafe up in Archway. It's right next to a Palestinian cafe. And a writer for The Guardian said that the presence of the Gales, the mere presence of that cafe, was an act of heavy-handed high street aggression. So I actually went along on the weekend and got myself a flat white, which was a highly aggressive thing to do in the circumstances.
It's a little protest.
Yeah, and that's why the people were there protesting against it. What do you make of this?
Well, you said, you know, it's sort of a distant, tangential link to Israel is enough to get the pro-Palestine mob daubing your bakery with red paint and smashing windows and the like. And this writer... it was a pretty terrible article.
It was.
Very distasteful, sort of pitting these two cafes against one another, saying that they were essentially on the front line of a war. Is that helpful?
N19 Archway. It was a very sunny morning. Certainly didn't feel like I was in combat going to buy my coffee, but there we go.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, we're going to be back there if Patrick has something to bring us. I think there may well be a stunt coming up, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. But we should read out the response from The Guardian. They say this article was amended on the 17th of March 2026. A reference to the arrival of Gales feeling like an act of heavy-handed high street aggression has been repositioned to clarify it meant to refer to the described fears about the chain's impact on small traders.
Also, a comment contrasting activism that is capable of influencing global events with small acts of petty symbolism, which was not intended to minimise local vandalism, but rather to suggest its misdirected futility, has been removed to avoid misunderstanding.
Yes, so the article has been a little bit edited since its first appearance on the website. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GBNews. Do stick with us, we've got lots more coming up.
Because it's been revealed that 1 in 10 new university students do not have even an A-level. So we'll be asking, is uni worth it anymore?
Yeah, is that a problem? But after the break, the war in Iran, of course, continues to escalate. Israel saying it's now killed Iran's intelligence minister in an overnight strike. We're going to be joined by the former chair of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood, who has a lot to say on this after the break.
All of that, much more to come. You're watching GB News, Britain's news channel. See you in a moment.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Great to see you. Thanks for joining the Late Show Live. Are you excited for the arrival of our Harry and America's Meghan?
Oh, look, we're always excited for the arrival of anyone who's royally adjacent, and that's what you can call them these days. What I'm mostly excited about, though, is in several decades of covering the royals, of course, when they came here in 2018, they were at the peak of their global power and fascination. Meghan announced that she was pregnant with baby Archie. They sat on the sand. Meghan baked banana bread. We couldn't get enough of them. We absolutely loved them. But here, 7 years later, this is a country built on mateship, on loyalty, on service, and I don't think they represent those characteristics anymore.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I said last night, I went on a bit of a rant saying, you know, Meghan especially preaches humanity and compassion and forgiveness. I mean, look how she treated her dad. There's some event in Australia, either in Melbourne or Sydney, where they're holding a speech, basically. Tickets start at £1,000, with tickets rising to more than £9,000 sterling for a platinum table of 8. Do you think, I mean, who is buying those £9,000 tickets, do you think, Angela?
Look, we don't have that kind of wealth in Australia. Well, certainly not that sort of wealth that would pay for those sort of people. I think we would pay for technology experts or thought leaders, but I don't put Meghan in that category. Look, one of those events, the one that Meghan's speaking at, is the Besties event, where we think we'll just hear, what I suspect is we'll just hear more of the same that we've heard in her podcasts, which, you know, if anyone who listened to them, they were as boring as batshit. So the fact that she's going to charge this amount of money, that event is only thought to make £500,000.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1:24, and in his first British TV interview, the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has slammed European countries for shunning strong leaders.
Yes, this exclusive interview, he told GB News presenter Miriam Cates that Donald Trump is shaking things up in the West.
My understanding of the leadership capacity of the West is rather bad. So that kind of attitude what we have, an old elite, academic-based, intellectually based, ideologically biased, routine, more trust in institutions than the capacity of a leader, that's paralyzed the whole Western world. So my point was that we need something new, somebody who is different, something who is coming from different place. I was not aware who is he, but I realized that this person, Donald Trump, could be a maverick, probably, but he is a person who will shake up the whole thing of the Western leadership concept, because we need personal leadership, personal responsibility, and brave man. So that was the reason why the very first one I said that could be good for the West.
He could break the deadlock in a sense.
And to create a new kind of character of leader. Okay, what's going on in Europe? I'm not an expert in the American politics, but in Europe I'm living among the leaders. And in Europe, the general conviction is that strong leader is a bad thing, because strong leader represents danger. The good thing is institutions, because institutions can run the countries, and the job of a leader and politicians, nothing else, just to manage the institutions, which is totally mistaken, so it's bad. So that's the concept of leadership, which must be changed, and he did so.
Very interesting comments from Viktor Orbán there. And GB News presenter Miriam Cates, and the interviewer herself, is with us. You've had a very busy couple of days. What exactly do you think he's trying to say there? Strong leaders versus more institutional ways of government?
So I asked him, you can watch the full interview, it's available online now, nearly an hour long, and I asked him why he'd supported Trump, whether he was still supporting Trump after he's obviously started a war. Orbán's very in favour of peace. And he made the point that it's too early to tell whether or not Trump will have a good or bad impact on the world overall, but something had to break the deadlock in Western leadership. And Trump, he said, was probably a maverick, but nevertheless, he'd broken the deadlock. So he then went on to talk about the problems in Western leadership. And I actually challenged him on his idea that institutions aren't necessarily a good thing. We can hear that clip now. The reason that Western Europe has gone down that route is because the lesson that they learned, particularly from the Second World War, is that you need institutions, you need law, you need international law to moderate the power of leaders. But you're saying they've just gone too far.
No, the point is that we need institutions. And when things are going well, institutions are stabilizing and helpful. But when the crises are coming up and dilemmas appear on horizon, somebody should make decisions. Institutions will never, because human being can decide. Certain things could be decided only by human being, by his own values, principles, personal courage, and so on. So when troubles are coming, we need leaders, not institutions. Somebody who is strong enough, brave enough, and ready to take the responsibility of the decision. We don't have enough that kind of leaders at this moment in Europe. Luckily enough, in the United States, now they have.
So what he was saying was that institutions are a good thing and we need them. But in times of crisis, institutions can't make decisions. You need leaders with wisdom and character and virtue to make good decisions. And that's actually where we've got lost. And now there's been plenty of accusations of Viktor Orbán and his Fidesz government that they've reduced freedom of the press, that they're authoritarian. But when we visited in January and we went to the border with Serbia, they have stopped illegal immigration. So this idea that strength is bad, that we should be fearful of strong leadership, well, maybe we should, but then you don't get things done. And Hungary's solved a lot of crises that we've struggled to do.
I suppose looking from an outside perspective from the UK, where it could be argued that our government at the moment is more legalistic, more process followed, more about institutions than leadership rather than individual historical figures. There's a middle ground to find, isn't there, where perhaps we don't have these accusations of corruption, favouritism, but also there's a bit more of an ability for people in power to pull levers and get things done. Having been now to Hungary several times, that is your view now as well?
Yes, absolutely. Where is this balance? Of course you need good institutions, you need separations of power. Those are obviously very, very important features of democracy. But if you can't get things done, and actually that is a failure of democracy, one of the questions I asked him was, well, in Europe, in Western Europe, we've voted many, many times to reduce mass migration. It still happened. Isn't that actually a failure of democracy? Whereas in Hungary, they had a referendum. The people said they don't want illegal immigration, so the government built a fence. You could argue that's a more democratic model because at least the people are having their say.
Whereas Keir Starmer always appears to, and does, defer to, as you say, international law, other institutions. What will my lawyers say about this? And as such, the moment often passes. I'm speaking at the moment, of course, about the Iran war and decisions there made over the Strait of Hormuz and so on. Is that the sort of thing that he is very much going against there? And what else can we expect from this interview if people haven't watched it?
Well, as I said, it's an hour long, so there's plenty. He talks about Ukraine, again, in Western Europe particularly. People have been very critical of Orbán's stance on Ukraine. He doesn't want Europe to get involved. He's not willing to send money or troops or weapons to Ukraine. He says it's not our war. There's some interesting history between Hungary and Ukraine. But we also talk about the future of Western civilization. He was one of the first Western leaders to start talking about what it means to be a Christian country, a Christian nation, where our values come from. So it's very interesting to hear him expand on that. But I think the most moving part, actually, I asked him at the end, what are your regrets? Is there anything you would have liked to achieve in your long career in politics? And the first thing he said was, well, I've had 30 years on frontline politics and I've missed out on my children and my grandchildren and spent a lot of time obviously working. And I thought that was a very moving admission. He's obviously achieved a lot. He's a very controversial figure, but, he has a personal life as well.
Miriam Cates, congratulations on an excellent interview. I do very much recommend our viewers to go and watch it online. Lots more there for you to discover.
Fantastic. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain. We're on GB News. We've got lots more coming up. Yes, after the break, US President Donald Trump attacks Sir Keir Starmer again, and he's also had some choice words for the BBC.
All of that and much more after your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Charlie, Emily, thank you and good afternoon. Just after 1:30, 5 new cases of meningitis have been reported in Kent, taking the total number being investigated to 20. 6 of the cases are meningitis B, a rare and potentially deadly strain. A targeted vaccination programme is launching today for students at the University of Kent. Thousands have also been given precautionary antibiotics. Israel has launched fresh strikes on Beirut today and ordered evacuations in southern Lebanon as fighting with Hezbollah is intensifying. The conflict is also spreading across much of the region, with US strikes on Iranian targets and attacks reported from Tel Aviv right across the Gulf. Here, Angela Rayner says government plans to make it harder for migrants to settle in the UK are un-British. Under the proposals, most migrants would have to wait twice as long to settle, rising from 5 to 10 years. The Home Office, though, says the changes are fair. That comes as thousands of Afghans are still waiting to hear if they can resettle in the UK more than 5 years after the fall of Kabul. The National Audit Office found nearly 30,000 people are still awaiting decisions. The watchdog says the government's approach is chaotic and inefficient. And graves more than 100 years old could be reused across England and Wales under new proposals to tackle a shortage of burial space. But war graves will be fully protected and never reused. The Law Commission says the plans would modernise laws dating back more than 170 years, with safeguards for families, including the right to object. Those are the lunchtime headlines. I'll be back with a full roundup at 2.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Warmer out there today, certainly across England and Wales, where it's generally blue skies all the way. It is cloudier for Scotland and Northern Ireland. There's a little bit of rain around. There's a weather front straddling Scotland and Northern Ireland. High pressure gathering in from either side. They're ringing out that weather front. Still, though, thick enough to provide quite a cloudy scene for much of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. May even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle here across Northern Ireland. A few showers in the far north, much of central and northeast Scotland dry and sunny, and then lots of sunshine for England and Wales. It is quite gusty across the southwest of England. Temperatures getting into the mid or high teens, likely to reach 20 Celsius across parts of West Wales. Further north, not quite as warm because we've got more cloud around. Still providing a little bit of rain and drizzle for the north coast of Northern Ireland into southwest Scotland. May see a few spots in Glasgow. The odd shower drifting through Caithness, Sutherland up towards Orkney into this evening too. But generally it's a dry evening for most of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a cracking end to the day for most of England and Wales. There is this breeze, as I said, providing some gusty conditions, bouncing over the hills in southwest England. That is quite noticeable, but generally we'll keep the clear skies through the nights. Might see a little bit of mist and fog forming. The clouds should break up a little more for Northern Ireland through the nights, but staying quite thick over eastern Scotland. Could see some drizzly rain along the east coast, pushing down towards the southeast for morning time. Temperatures will fall away with those clear skies. Rural spots may just dip close to freezing. Towns and cities starting at 3 to 5 degrees. So yes, a chilly start to Thursday, but again, plenty of sunshine. Should be a sunny day for Northern Ireland tomorrow. Still quite cloudy over central and eastern Scotland. A little bit of drizzly rain possible here, but brighter skies across the far northwest. And again, for most of England and Wales, it will be sunny and warm, just maybe not quite as warm as today. That's all for now. Goodbye.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A1, emergency roadworks are restricting traffic both ways between Dunbar and Castle Dykes. Northamptonshire's M1 northbound is running with one lane closed between Junction 16 and Junction 18 after a broken down vehicle. The M11 northbound exit slip at Junction 8 is closed following a road traffic collision. In Hampshire, the A34 northbound has a lane shut between the M3 and the A272 due to another breakdown. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and Cross Country report major disruption at Glasgow Central, with wider delays on some routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1:36. Now, overnight, US President Donald Trump said that NATO was making a foolish mistake over the reluctance of many members to send their ships to the Persian Gulf.
I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake, and I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there. So everyone agrees with us, but they don't want to help. And we as the United States have to remember that, because we think it's pretty shocking.
GB News presenter Bev Turner over in the States also asked Trump about the BBC.
Can I ask you how you're doing with your legal case against the BBC and their fake news documentary?
Well, the BBC was incredible. What they did is they had me speaking something I never said. But I watched them this morning for some crazy reason, and it was so inaccurate. Their reporting of the war was unbelievable. We have decimated that country. And if you watch BBC, it's almost like they're fighting us to a draw. They're not fighting us to a draw. It was very inaccurate news. It was fake news.
Well, this all comes as Ali Larijani, Iran's security chief and the de facto leader since Ali Khamenei's death, has been killed. The confirmation came in a post on his social media account and also from Iranian state TV.
Well, we're joined now by the former chair of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood. Tobias, thank you very much indeed. Where do you stand on the current situation in terms of the government's response?
Well, good afternoon. It is complicated. There's no doubt about it. There's three aspects to this I think we need to separate. Firstly, what next for Iran? Where does Operation Epic Fury go next? That is still not clear. We still are unsure of what the objectives are. Iran has absolutely been pummeled, but the regime shows no signs of capitulating. We're not getting any defections. There's no breakdown in the government. They are continuing. Then second, there's the consequences of escalation itself, specifically Iran's mining of the Straits of Hormuz. This has caused the massive disruption, as we see, oil and gas movements hitting economies across the world, including here in the UK. And then finally, what you were just touching on then is the further worrying rupture in the relationship between America, Europe, and of course Britain as well. That was first strained by Trump's reluctance, I'm afraid, to stand up to Putin in supporting efforts in Ukraine. It then became more complex with his ambitions to annex Greenland. You then had the tariffs and so forth, and even comments about British efforts in Afghanistan. And now Trump's request for NATO to then get involved. He should know better that NATO cannot possibly participate here because it's against the Article 5. You cannot participate in wars such as this in the same way that we couldn't have called upon NATO to help us out in the Falklands. It has to happen in the North Atlantic area. That's what this NATO treaty was about, in the north of the Tropic of Cancer. That doesn't prevent a coalition of the willing coming together. There's no doubt about that. But ultimately, we need to ask ourselves some basic questions about what is it that we're there to do? Is it the removal of the nuclear weapons? Is it the removal of the proxy terrorist groups? These are honorable objectives. They really are. But you cannot do that simply from bombing from a height. For me, the one missing objective, having been Middle East minister and been to the country many times, is the removal of the Ayatollah, of a supreme leader. Is it right in the 21st century, a country like Iran with such a eclectic mix of sectarian groups there and so forth, ethnic majorities, able to be run by one theocratic dictator who's got their own military? That should be the principal objective. Remove that, you remove the ideology, you then remove this ambition by the supreme leader to want to pursue a nuclear weapon. We haven't heard any of that at all. This is absolutely a very confusing place that we find ourselves now in.
And I suppose the main concern for the UK and perhaps for its NATO allies is the movement of oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. We've seen US Central Command, which has the oversight of the Middle East, saying that it had struck some targets on the coastline, the Iranian coast off the strait last night. That's critical because there are tremendous tactical strains against the movement of tankers out of the strait. The topography does not lend itself to a defensive force. Very easy to hide drones or those fast attack boats in the area. Do you think we're moving to a position now where we might need American troops on that coastline to secure it so that Britain and other American allies can have the confidence to deploy ships in the region, ships that would be safer transiting those oil tankers?
Yeah, you're right to point. Firstly, that the topography, the length of that coastline. Iran has the longest coastline in the Middle East that's pointing south there. Therefore, the ability to hide its drone capabilities is enormous. How you go about it, and that's an operational question that I'd probably leave to the military to say, how are you able to make the strait secure? And it is a question that should have been raised prior to Donald Trump launching this war. It was always going to be the case that Iran would disrupt, that would be able to, this is Iran's trump card, so to speak, the ability to then cause mayhem, to draw other countries in, to attract wider international attention, placing greater pressure, indeed, on America. It's also exposed something else, which we knew anyway, but simply the absence of our own maritime capability, our counter mine measures and so forth, all been removed from Bahrain. We had a massive effort based at our base there, ASMS Jafir, and that's pretty much disappeared. So it's focused attention yet again on just how our defense posture has been so diminished and is simply unprepared for the chaos, the mayhem that's coming over the hill as our world, not just here in the Middle East, but elsewhere, becomes ever more dangerous.
Tobias, sadly we're running out of time, but as a Conservative I do want to ask you about PMQs this midday, because Keir Starmer said that the Conservative Party has a problem with Muslims, calling on Nick Timothy, the Shadow Justice Secretary, to get the sack from government because of his comments on Twitter about a mass Islamic prayer held in Trafalgar Square. He called it an act of domination. What are your views on that?
Apologies, I didn't see PMQs. I'm sorry that we're having these debates. It clearly is an issue of tension. I'm afraid I can't give you any qualified comment on that. My wider concern, or where I'm focusing on, is that we have some very, very big issues, as we've just been discussing. I would hope all parties would be actually focusing their efforts on getting some collective voice on where we should stand. Usually on foreign policy, no matter who's in government, all the parties actually lean together. The one thing that's missing in our entirety of debate, every time I've come onto your show and listened to your program, where is the extra money going to come from? Lots of arguments, a lot of blame games on who should have spent more in the past. There needs to be all the leaders getting into the room and saying, let's spend more money on defence. Those are the key issues. That's fundamentally what I would like to see from our leadership right now.
Tobias, have you seen some polling out today by the Policy Exchange, which may make a collective foreign policy a little bit tricky? We have 39% of British Muslims view Iran favourably versus 8% of the general public. 45% of British Muslims say Iran is not a significant threat. Strong opposition to Western military action. 50% of Muslims say airstrikes on Iran were definitely wrong versus 17% of the general public. Is there a difficulty there in having a cohesive foreign policy?
Not at all. When you have a cohesive foreign policy, you do what is best for all of Britain. That should be your guiding direction. That should be your moral compass that you then follow. You can pluck up polls all you like, but ultimately we need to explain to the British people, all the British people, the wider context of what's going on in the Middle East. We cannot blindly follow America every time they want to go to war. That's not what the special relationship is all about. It hurts me that Britain and Europe and indeed America are not on the same page. But we will weather through this. But ultimately, we're facing a war in the Middle East, and that requires statecraft. That's what I would like to see at the moment. Let's not get distracted by particular polling. Let's do what's best for Britain, best for Europe, and best for our relationship with America.
Tobias, are you 100% confident then that the government's response to this war has not been tempered whatsoever by domestic political concerns, by concerns about sectarian perspectives or parallel societies, and some of the polling that you've just heard from Emily?
You're right to push back on that. I suspect it has been, because some of the decision-making has been poor. There was a massive hesitance. Much as I disagreed with Donald Trump going in the first place, I think he was pushed himself by Benjamin Netanyahu. Once those bombs started to fall, however uncomfortable it is that this war has actually started, then there's a whole new dynamic of us supporting what America is doing. But I clarify, there's still no clarity as to what the objective is. I want to see the Ayatollah, the theocratic leader, removed. I want to see that as an objective to allow Iran to develop a new chapter in its history. It's had 4 or 5 decades under theocratic leadership, which has been poisoning the whole of instability in the Middle East. That is the best opportunity now to change that. I fear we're going to get a Venezuela-light outcome here, whereby the regime stays, there's new leadership, they are bruised, they're pummeled, but over time they get to rearm, regroup, and do it all over again. That would be such a poor outcome, given the commitments that have been made in this war so far and the sacrifices already endured.
OK, well, Tobias Ellwood, thank you very much for your time this afternoon, former chair of the Defence Select Committee.
Very interesting to hear that line about regime editing versus regime change. I wonder if the American and Israeli objectives there are slightly different. It's pretty clear that the Israelis are seeking to bomb pretty much every leader that's going. But I think the Americans probably have a few they want to stay alive so they can have that Venezuela-style move. They keep someone that they can have power over in charge of the country. Interesting how those two differences line up.
We're rather unsure of where exactly we stand, aren't we? Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. We're going to be crossing over to Windsor to get the very latest on the Nigerian state visit with our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, and you'd be mad to be doing that because it's so lovely today in Britain, but here's a forecast if you are for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy showers will continue to affect parts of Greece and Turkey for the next couple of days. The south of France, probably the best place to be around the Mediterranean for sunshine over the next few days. Not just Greece and Turkey seeing the showers, parts of southern Italy, also Corsica, Sardinia seeing sunny skies on Thursday. There's the sunshine for Nice and much of the east of Spain and the Balearics too, but looking very wet in the Algarve, and this part of a big storm system bringing wet and windy weather to the Madeira and the Canaries for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1:52 and King Charles has welcomed the Nigerian president to Windsor Castle for the first incoming Ramadan state visit by a Muslim leader in almost a century.
Well, let's cross live to Windsor, where GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker is there for us. So, Cameron, what's going on right now?
Well, Emily, right now they are viewing the display of the Royal Collection Trust license to do with Nigeria, but the pomp and the pageantry was out on display this morning, as you can probably imagine. But the crowds that have travelled to Windsor have just been incredible. The Nigerian diaspora here in the United Kingdom, there's around 500,000 of them, have been really celebratory of what's been going on in Nigeria. Give us a wave, guys, if you can. Yeah, we are. There's been a few of them. Anyway, yes, we've been chatting to them and they've been very excited about the state visit because of what's actually going on behind the scenes. Yes, we had the pomp and pageantry inside the quadrangle of Windsor Castle with the Grenadier Guards mounting a display of ceremonial welcome with the thousands tri-service personnel of the British Army, the Air Force, the Royal Navy and Royal Marines putting on that display for the President Tinubu and the First Lady. But tomorrow, this is of course all about the soft power that you're seeing on your screens now. But tomorrow is where it all happens behind the scenes with those trade negotiations, with the security negotiations in particular, because it was just a couple of days ago there was a series of suicide bombings in Nigeria, killing at least 20 people, injuring more than 100. And it is the British security forces working in collaboration with the Nigerians, which is really going to be strengthened during this state's visit. And of course the state banquet tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Cameron Walker. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up on today's show, a huge amount. We're going to go check in on that protest at the Guardian HQ.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one, won't it? Having a go at the Gales. But first, let's have a look at the weather with Alex Deakin.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Warm out there today, certainly across England and Wales, where it's generally blue skies all the way. It is cloudier for Scotland and Northern Ireland. There's a little bit of rain around. There's a weather front straddling Scotland and Northern Ireland. High pressure gathering in from either side. They're ringing out that weather front. Still, though, thick enough to provide quite a cloudy scene for much of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. May even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle here across Northern Ireland. A few showers in the far north. Much of central and northeast Scotland dry and sunny, and then lots of sunshine for England and Wales. It is quite gusty across the southwest of England. Temperatures getting into the mid or high teens, likely to reach 20 Celsius across parts of West Wales. Further north, not quite as warm because we've got more cloud around. Still providing a little bit of rain and drizzle for the north coast of Northern Ireland into southwest Scotland. May see a few spots in Glasgow. The odd shower drifting through Caithness, Sutherland up towards Orkney into this evening too. But generally it's a dry evening for most of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a cracking end to the day for most of England and Wales. There is this breeze, as I said, providing some gusty conditions bouncing over the hills in southwest England. That is quite noticeable, but generally we'll keep the clear skies through the nights. Might see a little bit of mist and fog forming. The clouds should break up a little more for Northern Ireland through the nights, but staying quite thick over eastern Scotland. Could see some drizzly rain along the east coast, pushing down towards the southeast for morning time. Temperatures will fall away with those clear skies. Rural spots may just dip close to freezing. Towns and cities starting at 3 to 5 degrees. So yes, a chilly start to Thursday, but again, plenty of sunshine. Should be a sunny day for Northern Ireland tomorrow. Still quite cloudy over central and eastern Scotland. A little bit of drizzly rain possible here, but brighter skies across the far northwest. And again, for most of England and Wales, it will be sunny and warm, just maybe not quite as warm as today. That's all for now. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
A camper van and cash could be yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. You could be driving away in this brand new Benavan 122. This 2026 model, worth over £67,000, comes with all of the mod cons you'd expect. And that's not all, as you'll also get an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash to boost your bank account this year. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50. £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on the 18th of March. I'm Charlie Peters.
And I'm Emily Carver. Well, it was a fiery PMQs, to say the least. The Prime Minister claimed the Conservative Party has a problem with Muslims, calling on the Shadow Justice Secretary to get the sack after his comments following a mass Islamic prayer in Trafalgar Square. Let's take a listen.
Described it as an act of domination, straight from the Islamist playbook. If we're in my team, it'd be gone. It's utterly appalling. She should denounce his comments and she should sack him.
Meanwhile, the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, took aim at the Prime Minister after Angela Rayner said that his government is running out of time.
Prime Minister wants to talk about my leadership. I'm shocked because his former deputy has just fired the starting gun on the race to replace him. And I'll tell him one thing. She and I both agree that this weak man should be replaced by a strong woman.
Elsewhere, the meningitis outbreak is now officially a national incident. Pharmacies are running out of vaccines as infections are on the rise. Well, we bring you the very latest.
And a shocking new poll has found that British Muslims prefer Iran and Russia to the United States, and that they're also 5 times more likely to view Iran favourably than the general public. We'll be discussing what's going on with the former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum.
And I don't know if you've seen this one. I hadn't until this morning. Morocco have won the African Cup of Nations. But get this, 2 months after the final took place. What on earth is happening there? Perhaps Charlie can fill us in.
That was a fun one in the morning meeting, wasn't it? What should we do as our second story in the two? I was like, oh, how about the AFCON?
I said the what con?
Curiously silent there for a second.
The what con?
Who's being conned now? Well, Senegal were conned.
It sounds like it's been a bit of a shambles.
Something like that. But luckily, we will get some excellent insight from an African football journalist later, but it is quite the funky story. It's always very interesting, AFCON. It's usually
Things happen.
Slightly ludicrous tournament, and certainly things did happen this time.
Oh, good for Morocco, I suppose, unless that's the wrong thing to say. I don't know. Should Senegal have got it? Should they have got it? Is it a problem, Charlie, that British Muslims are 5 times more likely to be, have a favourable view of Iran than the general British public?
Absolutely. Any area where there is a major difference between communities in Britain and their perspective on major issues, then there's a problem.
On the grounds of identity.
Absolutely. Then that does indicate some degree of parallel societies. It can indicate that people are not speaking to one another. And that always concerns me, that people are often operating in bubbles. They don't hear alternative perspectives. That can really concern me, especially in areas of the country where English isn't very strong, or people get their news or get their views from single sources. That can be a major issue as well.
Yeah, I mean, we did ask Tobias Ellwood, the former Defence Select Committee leader, the chair of the Defence Select Committee, whether it's an issue, whether this makes, having a foreign policy as a country quite tricky when there are such vastly different views. Is this why Keir Starmer has been so hesitant?
Yeah.
Or is he just the man?
Domestic political concerns always play a role in major foreign policy, and they undoubtedly have played a role in our response to this issue, especially on the back of the Gorton and Denton by-election. No doubt in my mind on that one.
Well, absolutely. gbnews.com/yoursay. Please do get in touch with all your views this afternoon. But we're going to get to the news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you from the newsroom at just after 2 o'clock. The top story this hour, Sir Keir Starmer is facing yet more questions over his judgment after admitting mistakes were made around the appointment of Peter Mandelson, and that issue dominated a heated clash during Prime Minister's questions today, with Kemi Badenoch accusing the Prime Minister of ducking responsibility and, she said, not doing the work.
3 times I have asked him if the Prime Minister spoke to Peter Mandelson. 3 times he has refused to answer. We can only assume he did not speak to Peter Mandelson. From the documents published, we know he left the questioning of Mandelson's relationship with a convicted paedophile to 2 of Mandelson's closest friends, one of whom was also friends with a convicted paedophile. Asking those questions should have been his job. Why did he fail to do his duty?
Well, Sir Keir Starmer hit back, turning the attack to Kemi Badenoch's stance on Iran, accusing her of reckless judgment and trying to rush Britain towards conflict.
3 weeks ago, she said we should rush into war. She didn't do the work. She didn't think through the consequences. Committing our military to a war without thinking through the consequences is the gravest mistake a leader of the opposition can ever do. And she comes back a week later and says, oops, I got that one wrong. She's utterly irrelevant, and she's got no judgment.
An explosive meningitis outbreak in Kent has now reached 20 cases, with 2 young people sadly confirmed to have died. Health officials say the speed of the spread is highly unusual, with most cases linked to young adults and close contact settings. Hundreds of students have been queuing for hours for antibiotics, with more than 2,500 doses already given out, and a targeted vaccination programme being rolled out today on campus. Well, earlier today, Labour Minister Nick Thomas-Symonds said the government is managing the outbreak and following expert medical advice.
The government will continue to be led by the clinical evidence, taking advice from the Joint Committee on Vaccinations and Immunisation, the independent expert group, as to whether we need to expand that vaccination programme further. But I'd also say to anyone who has symptoms, and we're talking about things like headache, fever, and indeed a rash, and indeed there's a list of symptoms on the gov.uk website. Please don't hesitate in coming forward and seeking medical attention.
Also this afternoon, Israel has said Iran's intelligence minister, Ismail Khatib, has been killed in an overnight strike, marking the second senior figure from Iran's top tier to be targeted in as many days. It follows the killing of security chief Ali Larijani in what appears to be a deepening crisis in Iran's leadership, though Tehran has not confirmed the latest death. Meanwhile, Israel has launched fresh strikes on Beirut today and ordered evacuations from a number of areas across the country as fighting with Hezbollah intensifies. The conflict is widening also across the rest of the region, with US strikes on Iranian targets and retaliatory Iranian attacks reported, as civilians on the ground are describing living in constant fear. Here, meanwhile, the government is facing political pressure over its response to the war. Shadow Transport Secretary Richard Holden has accused Sir Keir Starmer of spineless leadership.
We should have been in a situation, as Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives argued, to allow the US to use British bases from the start rather than just now, down the line. That's something that apparently Labour had argued about within the Cabinet, but the Prime Minister had such weak and spineless leadership that he couldn't get his own way on. And I think if we'd done that, we'd be in a very different position to where we are now.
Angela Rayner has warned that government plans to make it harder for migrants to settle in the UK are un-British and a breach of trust. Under the proposals, most migrants would have to wait twice as long for permanent residency, rising from 5 to 10 years. Ms Rayner says people already in the system are now fearing for their future and accused ministers of moving the goalposts. The Home Office, though, insists the changes are fair and needed to protect public finances. But plans are facing growing criticism even within Labour itself. And thousands of Afghans are still waiting to be resettled in the UK more than 5 years after the fall of Kabul, according to the National Audit Office. Nearly 30,000 people are still to receive a decision, despite almost 38,000 already arriving. The watchdogs called the system chaotic and inefficient, with multiple schemes and departments working at cross purposes. It warns that delays, poor data and a lack of housing still pose significant risks, including the threat of homelessness for those who have resettled. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in around 22 minutes' time.
Thank you, Sam. Well, the Prime Minister, he said that his thoughts are with those affected by the meningitis outbreak in Kent.
Yes, the number confirmed cases being investigated has risen to 20.
The government has also launched a vaccination programme for students, as some pharmacies are claiming to be running out of jabs.
Well, we're now joined by Senior Clinical Lecturer at the University of Exeter Medical School, Dr Bharat Pankania. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Doctor. We're hearing that the University of Kent campus is now a ghost town, as huge numbers of students have fled the area. Is that the right thing to do?
No, I wouldn't say so. We know what to do, and we're very well practiced with incidents of meningococcal disease. There is no panic. There is no need to say, I need to get out of here and go home. In fact, continuing with your normal day-to-day activities is crucial, rather than to suddenly say, I need to up sticks and go home, for example.
And, Doctor, what do you make of the engagement from the UK Health Security Agency? There's been some criticism of the government for not reacting quickly enough, because this happened over a weekend, people not being able to get in touch with the agency, including the chemistry nightclub that's at the heart of some of the transmission.
So let me emphasize, I am an infectious disease expert. I've been dealing with these things for decades. And I'm willing to bet no one, not a single colleague of mine, including myself, have ever seen an explosive rise in number of cases from one point source, meaning club chemistry. So this is very unusual, unprecedented. Having said that, I have insight, and I'm very happy to share it with you. So what happens is, when cases are notified to us, we find their close contacts and we give to them antibiotics. This, of course, takes time and effort. And my view, because I have been in meetings and things, is that the United Kingdom Health Security Agency is doing a fine job. And these things are better never rushed. But they're supposed to be controlled, measured interventions with science backing it. So, look, whilst it sounds quite a drama, I don't think there are failures at the NHS or the AXA end or the government end.
Okay, well, Dr Bharat Pankania, thank you very much indeed for your time. You're a Senior Clinical Lecturer at the University of Exeter, an expert on disease. We're going to move to some politics now, because Angela Rayner has piped up, hasn't she?
Yes,
she's made some rather punchy remarks at a Labour event overnight.
Yes, in comments that could be seen as more evidence of Rayner getting in position for a potential leadership race, she warned the Prime Minister that he cannot just go through the motions in the face of decline.
Yeah, she added that the government is running out of time to show it can deliver the change people need, while also warning that potential immigration reforms are at risk of being un-British. Right. Well, should we speak to Simon Greaves, former Labour councillor, on this one? I also note that Angela Rayner has, she's lined up for apparently £100,000 in memoirs and speaking events and things like that. So she's doing all right, and it does appear as though she's gearing up for a leadership challenge. What do you think, Simon?
I think we might have lost Simon.
Well, Angela
he's back.
Very busy.
Can we reconnect Simon, because he's a little bit frozen, I think. We'll have to talk amongst ourselves on this one, Charlie.
Good.
Angela Rayner, she wants the top job.
Yes, and £100,000 on the speaking fees, Emily, is the one that sort of piqued my curiosity the most, because are they paying for Angela Rayner's insight with £100,000, for her special understanding of government, of the political system, for some forecasting on where Labour might go next? Or are they paying to be close to Angela Rayner, as she is being seen by many as a successor to Sir Keir Starmer if his premiership falls apart in May? I think that's probably more what they're paying for.
Well, every good socialist earns £100,000. You know, she's got
it's not too bad, is it?
Various taxes and things to pay. Simon Greaves, thank you very much. You're back with us, former Labour councillor. Angela Rayner on manoeuvres? Question mark.
Well, Angela Rayner being very busy and certainly making her voice heard, but she's not the first Labour leading figure over time that's expressed their opinion on the direction of things and what should happen next. But it does look to me as though people will see this as moving towards potential another maybe an opportunity in the future that she's looking towards.
You make of the comments she made that it's un-British to extend the indefinite leave to remain rules, expanding them from 5 to 10 years and for refugees to making up to 20. What's un-British about that? I mean, that's obviously Angela Rayner's perspective. She also says it's a breach of trust. I'm not sure what that means either. Do you share her perspective? And how large is that view within the Parliamentary Labour Party, where Angela Rayner seems to be trying to seek out some support?
Well, first of all, no, I don't share those views, and I don't believe that the government's proposals are un-British. It does appear to me that there are a number of MPs that may well be sympathetic to Angela Rayner's position, but the truth of it is governing is very difficult. And what is even more difficult, I have to say, is if you go into government without a fixed policy position. And so we are seeing these issues that are important issues that need to be resolved, along with welfare benefits, dare I say, in the future that will come around very quickly, that will cause Labour MPs that have gone into Parliament not ideally with the intention of looking towards curbs on benefits or delays to immigration status for people. But this is a very generous country, and I do believe that the Home Secretary's proposals are with the right intentions in mind. And the fact is that the public wish to see more measures taken so as to ensure that the UK is not seen as a soft touch.
Did the Parliamentary Party, though, the Labour Party, understand that?
Yeah.
Though, because it's all well and good saying, you know, looking at the polling and the public want curbs of immigration, they've wanted that for decades. But it seems as though there are many an MP within the Labour Party who thinks the absolute opposite and would rather see open borders than any tougher restrictions. That's a problem, particularly when Keir Starmer is so weak.
Well, it is a problem when a party turns inwards and going through a huge amount of self-reflection, having just been elected into government. So I think that there's the government do need to have more focus, and certainly need to focus the minds of Labour MPs who appear to be drifting off, looking at other issues as opposed to delivering what the people wish to see.
We're not even 2 years in, though, are we, with this government? And it's a moment for self-reflection.
I suppose also, Simon, to that point, on this point of, you know, does Sir Keir Starmer actually stand by Shabana Mahmood and these immigration changes, which Angela Rayner is saying are un-British? This afternoon, the press secretary of the Prime Minister would not explicitly say that the government is committed to those immigration reforms, saying instead that the government would consider responses to the consultation and respond.
Oh my
It does
gosh.
feel as though, once again, we're going through a process, going through internal debate, Angela Rayner putting through this criticism, and Sir Keir Starmer is ignoring, potentially, one of the key areas where he might actually get some support.
Well, I do. It doesn't surprise me that the response that was put out is in that language, but the truth of it is that the government has made its position very clear, and there's a lot of arguments that clearly it needs to win internally to ensure that people are on side with the proposals. But this is the problem when you go into government and you don't have a settled plan as to how you wish to proceed.
Yes, absolutely. Is he going to end up throwing Shabana Mahmood onto the bus on this one?
I doubt it very much.
Simon Greaves, thank you very much indeed for your time. Former Labour councillor there, talking about all things Angela Rayner. Yes, I can see that happening.
Yes, I mean...
Getting scared off from having a little bit of a tough policy.
I think his fear then wouldn't be about Angela Rayner challenging him, but rather Shabana Mahmood, who I think would be much more interested in taking on that role. I don't think we did mention her tax affairs.
I did make a little quip. I did make a little quip. So on the matter of Rayner's tax affairs, a spokesperson for Ms Rayner said, Angela said she would cooperate fully with the HMRC and continues to do so. A running commentary is not helpful.
Stop being so unhelpful with
Well, there you
running
go.
commentary.
There you go.
Right, it is 18 minutes past 2. It's time for the Great British Giveaway now. Nothing to do with our tax affairs, but rather £92,000. Almost as much as you can make making some speeches in the city. That's 25 grand in tax-free cash, plus your very own 4-berth camper van. Here are all the details you need.
A camper van and cash could be yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. You could be driving away in this brand new Benavan 122. This 2026 model, worth over £67,000, comes with all of the mod cons you'd expect. Alloy wheels, solar panel, electric step and plenty of storage space. Plus, it comfortably sleeps 4 people. It's the ultimate home from home. And that's not all, as you'll also get an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash to boost your bank account this year. It's a prize package worth over £92,000 and it could be yours. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes are closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, there you go. That's how you can get your hands on £92,000 worth of items.
Indeed, good luck, folks. Well, you're watching Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more coming up because they thought it was all over. 2 months on, it is now. Senegal have been sensationally stripped of their AFCON title. We'll be explaining all of that in a moment.
But next, a new poll suggests that British Muslims are 5 times more likely to have a positive view of the Iranian regime than the general public. Why is that?
Why is that?
Why is that?
Why is that? All of that and much more to come. You're watching GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
To warm family brunches.
from football to tennis in the car,
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is now 2:23. Now, according to a new poll, British Muslims are 5 times more likely to have a positive view of the Iranian regime than the general public is.
Well, the findings come in a new report from Policy Exchange revealing that Muslims in the UK have a vastly different view on the Iran conflict and are more hostile towards the US and Israel compared to Russia and China.
OK, well, we're joined by the Campaign Director for Shared European Values, Mohammed Amin. Mohammed, thank you very much for joining us. Why is this? Why is there this quite considerable difference between the general public and the Muslim population when it comes to favourability of Iran?
Good afternoon, Emily. Earlier today, I downloaded the 10-page report from Policy Exchange, which is written by Dr. Rakib Ehsan, somebody who I've met on several occasions personally, and I think he's a good guy. I've also downloaded the full polling tables. The poll was conducted by JL Partners, so I've read through that. I think the poll was conducted fairly and reasonably. So the question you're asking me is, why do I think British Muslims have these views compared to the general population? And I would say that they are heavily influenced by the fact that Iran was attacked by Israel and America last summer and has been attacked by Israel and America again. And I think their views about Iran generally are heavily colored by seeing Iran as the victim of current hostility.
But we've also seen that it's not just British Muslims who've seen the exact same process play out. That doesn't explain the vast differences in perspectives, Mohammed. We've all seen the same news unfold. We saw the strikes on the nuclear facilities last June, and we've seen these strikes again in February and March. Why, then, is there such a significant split? I don't think that quite explains it.
I think it's because British Muslims see their co-religionists being attacked, and they don't see any clear explanation about why that attack is taking place, other than to suit the interests of the United States and Israel.
Are you
That's my
concerned that
guess.
there's support for the Iranian regime in this country among British Muslims? Because it's one thing to support the Iranian people, of course, but a totalitarian Islamist regime is quite another. Worrying, no?
Well, I would have been really interested to see what polling of British Muslims' views about the Iranian regime had been like if it had been taken at a time when war wasn't going on, if you took it, say, 2 years ago, when you might well have had very different views. And the other issue, of course, is that British Muslims, very few of them have actually been to Iran, so they're looking at it from outside, and it's quite easy to form an impression of a regime from outside which said this is an Islamic regime. They put a lot of emphasis on religion and not pay too much attention to the very negative things about the regime. I detest the Iranian regime.
That implies that they're looking at this from a perspective of ignorance, but there's plenty of information out there on what the Iranian regime does. And I thought it was quite revealing when you said they've seen their co-religionists being attacked. They've also, the Iranian regime has caused no shortage of dramas in the UK, launching terror attacks in Britain, very widely understood and well documented, these attacks in Britain, these plots, attacks against also the United States, all across Europe. So why are they not rallying around British interests rather than their co-religionists? Because it's certainly not in the British national interest for the Ayatollah and his legions of Islamist sort of authoritarians to continue to thrive?
Well, first of all, the other thing that struck me, which was quite interesting from the poll, is where people get their news from. And British Muslims, disproportionately compared to the general population, are getting their news from social media channels, from TikTok, from Al Jazeera, which is quite interesting. Al Jazeera is based in Qatar, and Qatar hasn't had particularly friendly relations with Iran in many ways. But I would like everybody to get their news from the Financial Times, and if they did, I think their views would be very different. That's where I get most of my news from.
So, free Financial Times, a copy for everyone in the country. But Hamid, just to finish, my concern is, of course, in this country, we've always had very differing views on foreign policy. But when there's this stark difference based on what religion you are in this country, that's going to make having a coherent foreign policy going forward a little bit tricky.
Well, British foreign policy needs to reflect the views of its citizens. 94% of British people are not Muslims. I think Muslims are 6.5% of the population. And British foreign policy clearly has to be made in the national interest, but every citizen is entitled to have a view depending upon the things that are important to them.
Do you think, Mohammed, that this polling suggests that for lots of British Muslims, their prior allegiances aren't necessarily always to the British state and to the UK in general, and that, as you said, that they're looking at these situations with their co-religionists and finding more favourability there than with Britain and her allies? I don't think social media can perfectly explain that gap. Do you think there could be other elements behind that?
Well, one of the things I noticed even in this poll is actually British Muslims, I think, had a slightly more favourable view of the United Kingdom than non-Muslims did. And I've seen other polling which shows quite clearly that British Muslims are more patriotic than the general population. So I think it's entirely wrong to decide how British Muslims think about the country as a whole from their views about Iran at a time when Iran is being attacked.
OK, Mohammed Amin, thank you very much indeed, Campaign Director for Shared European Values.
Very interesting perspective. Very grateful to have his take there.
Yeah,
was a Conservative before, so...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
the other thing that's interesting, the less negative views of China and Russia, British Muslims, it's very sort of anti-Western, so therefore go support Russia and China, perhaps?
Yeah, it's a
of course, this is not all Muslims. This is Russia favourable 29% of British Muslims, so it's not a majority. That's versus 8% of the general public. China, 38% favourable among British Muslims. But it's very interesting, isn't it?
It'd be interesting to compare the polling also by different identities within the UK as well. What do under 35s think? White under 35, Christian under 35s. Is there a ginormous split? I think another thing that Mohammed told us before he came on is that he thinks that there's a split based on age as well. And a lot of British Muslims are younger than the general population, and instead they might have a more skewed, more left-wing, anti-establishment perspective. Again, I'm not sure that really explains it, but would love to know how that compares with the rest of the country.
I mean, look at anti-Israel sentiment among the under 35s, under 25s in this country of all religions and none. So there you go. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GBNews. Get your thoughts in after the break.
Yes, because it's been revealed that 1 in 10 university students don't have a single A-level. So we're debating, is university worth it?
That's after your headlines.
Just after 2:30, the headlines from the newsroom this hour. 5 new cases of meningitis have been reported in Kent, taking the total number being investigated to 20. 6 of the cases are meningitis B, a rare and potentially deadly strain. A targeted vaccination programme is underway for students at the University of Kent. Thousands have also been given precautionary antibiotics. Israel has launched fresh strikes on Beirut today and ordered evacuations in southern Lebanon as fighting with the Iran-backed Hezbollah group intensifies. The conflict is spreading across the region too, with US strikes on Iranian targets and attacks reported from Tel Aviv right through the Gulf. Here, Angela Rayner says government plans to make it harder for migrants to settle in the UK are un-British. Under the proposals, most migrants would have to wait twice as long to settle, rising from 5 years to 10 years. The Home Office, though, says the changes are fair. That comes as thousands of Afghans are still waiting to hear if they can resettle in the UK more than 5 years after the fall of Kabul. The National Audit Office found nearly 30,000 people are still awaiting decisions. The watchdog says the government's approach is chaotic and inefficient. And graves more than 100 years old could be reused across England and Wales under new proposals to tackle a shortage of burial space. But war graves will be fully protected and never reused. The Law Commission says the plans would modernise laws dating back 170 years with safeguards for families, including the right to object. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup at 3 o'clock with Tatiana Sanchez.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Warmer out there today, certainly across England and Wales where it's generally blue skies all the way. It is cloudier for Scotland and Northern Ireland. There's a little bit of rain around. There's a weather front straddling Scotland and Northern Ireland. High pressure gathering in from either side. They're ringing out that weather front. Still, though, thick enough to provide quite a cloudy scene for much of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. May even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle here across Northern Ireland. A few showers in the far north. Much of central and northeast Scotland dry and sunny, and then lots of sunshine for England and Wales. It is quite gusty across the southwest of England. Temperatures getting into the mid or high teens, likely to reach 20 Celsius across parts of West Wales. Further north, not quite as warm because we've got more cloud around. Still providing a little bit of rain and drizzle for the north coast of Northern Ireland. Into southwest Scotland, may see a few spots in Glasgow. The odd shower drifting through Caithness, Sutherland, up towards Orkney into this evening too. But generally, it's a dry evening for most of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a cracking end to the day for most of England and Wales. There is this breeze, as I said, providing some gusty conditions. Bouncing over the hills in southwest England, that is quite noticeable, but generally we'll keep the clear skies through the nights. Might see a little bit of mist and fog forming. The clouds should break up a little more for Northern Ireland through the nights, but staying quite thick over eastern Scotland. Could see some drizzly rain along the east coast, pushing down towards the southeast for morning time. Temperatures will fall away with those clear skies. Rural spots may just dip close to freezing. Towns and cities starting at 3 to 5 degrees. So yes, a chilly start to Thursday, but again, plenty of sunshine. Should be a sunny day for Northern Ireland tomorrow. Still quite cloudy over central and eastern Scotland. A little bit of drizzly rain possible here, but brighter skies across the far northwest. And again, for most of England and Wales, it will be sunny and warm, just maybe not quite as warm as today. That's all for now. Goodbye.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A1, traffic is restricted in both directions between Dunbar and Castle Dykes due to emergency roadworks. On the M62 westbound between Junction 25 and Junction 24, a broken down vehicle has closed one of 4 lanes. Conditions expected to ease after 2:30 this afternoon. On the M25 clockwise exit slip at Junction 26, there is congestion and delays of around 10 minutes, improving after 2:45 this afternoon. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and Cross Country report disruption at Glasgow Central, with Avanti also disrupted between Preston and Bolton or Wigan Northwestern. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. This is Good Afternoon Britain. Now it's 36 minutes past 2. Official figures from the Higher Education Statistics Agency show that 1 in 10 new university students do not have a single A-level.
Yes, those numbers have more than doubled in a decade, from 31,000 students in 2015 to 75,000 students in 2025.
Now, why is this happening? Why is this happening? So this afternoon we're going to be asking, are universities a thing of the past? But we also want to dig in perhaps to that 1 in 10 not having an A-level or even a GCSE. Joining us now is entrepreneur and chairman at WeFix, Charlie Mullins, and the political commentator at Young Voices UK, Ted Newson. Thank you very much to you both. Charlie, you don't even need an A-level to go to university now.
Exactly. Well, personally, I think it's a scam. I think it's bums on seats. It's about raising money. And as you say, I think it's 10% haven't even got an A-level. So there's a certain amount that are not going to make it anyhow. But the worrying thing that I think we should be talking about is 260 billion is a debt for university at the moment. Wow. 260 billion, and in 10 years, I think it's gone. It was 65 billion 10 years ago. So something ain't working, is it? And them students are not going to pay that money back.
There's lots of students who will pay that money back, Ted.
They will?
The problem is that a lot of universities maybe aren't providing a standard that will allow them to do that. There are some that will, but many that won't.
Exactly. I think it is a standard. And when you look at what universities are doing at the moment to prepare people for the job market, it isn't enough. But England is still one of the gold standards for university education. It's part of our soft power, and it makes people earn more once they get a university degree.
Sometimes. That's a problem. A lot of degrees don't do that. People have been conned into thinking every university degree is great, but actually the majority don't necessarily boost your earnings.
Well, we need the information. We need the salary information after people go to uni so that people have...
informed choices.
Have informed choices,
Ted
exactly.
Newson, we do have that information available to us. I just suspect that people don't check it, Charlie.
That's right. Well, look, most university students that leave, they don't get the job that they want. Even you said it to me. And a girl in our office just said to me, she went to university, passed out, and she said, waste of time. They just said, OK, you're done, goodbye. So I think it has to be looked at, and you, Charles or Charlie?
Charlie. Charlie, on my passport and all.
Of course. Charlie, you say that this money does get paid back. Well, 3 million graduates owe 50k each.
Sure.
So I'm not sure that...
So I was saying is that the majority aren't. That's the problem. But there are some who will pay it back eventually through their lifetimes because they get great jobs. But way too many people, in my view, are going to university, and the standards of the I'm agreeing with you. The standards of the courses and the institutions isn't good enough. I suppose the point for you, Ted, is if we're defending university as a great option for so many students, do we need to strip back the number of places available, the number of institutions that are open, and make it something actually more valuable?
Well, I think people need to know what they're getting into here. And at the moment, so many people think that university is just a given choice. And I do agree with Charlie. People need apprenticeships at the same time. Some people are better suited to apprenticeships. But at the same time, when it comes to degrees that are, say, equipping people for a career in the civil service or in research, especially in STEM subjects, you need the university degree for that because it teaches critical thinking and it teaches people to work on stuff which can really underpin knowledge.
This isn't about doing people down. You know, if you haven't got a GCSE, you haven't got an A-level, there'll still be options out there for you. Yeah. This is about looking at what universities are there for, and they are places of academia, first and foremost. So if people ain't got an A-level, haven't got an A-level, then, you know, what's the point? They should be doing something practical, surely, Charlie.
They're not necessarily going to get a great education from there, and I think there's 40 to 60% dropout rate on the first year. But you said something about, you know, they're going to earn money and pay back, but they've got to get 25k before they start paying back. And if they don't get a job, they're never going to pay back. So, I mean, is it a good investment? That with 200, it is a good investment.
Well, I think people talk about the graduate premium, and at the moment, so many graduates just aren't seeing that. So they need more information about what their degree, if they get to the end of it, they're going to earn. And that information people don't have at the moment. Like
but universities give you that information.
More.
They give you that information.
Not enough. Not per course. Not per course.
But they tell you you'll get this, you'll get that, and when you leave there, it doesn't stack up.
They need to support students more, I agree.
That when you left, you didn't get the job that you wanted.
It's the support. It's the support that you need And if universities can transition students into the jobs market more, I believe they're completely...
I mean, they're
Do you know
adults.
what? I'm not buying this ignorance thing.
Well,
there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there, Charlie and Ted. There is a lot out there on how much degrees you'll end up, the average earnings you'll end up having after 2, 3, 4, 5 years or whatever, once you get out of university. That information is there. I just think at the age of 17, when you apply for university, you're thinking, oh, well, I'll be different to that. Or you're not bothering, you know? It is out there, the information, you just may not want to see it.
But can I just say this? We need to build 300,000 houses. That's without all the illegals, right? So all these people at the university, they're not going to help at all. It's actually just going to rack the bill up more and more. And I'd imagine soon, it won't be long before we put all the illegals into university and pay for them. No, I'm just being honest.
Well, I think it's probably some student accommodation.
They're increasingly reliant on foreign students, aren't they, to pay the way. It's a great source of soft power for the UK. I'm never really sure what that actually means, to be honest, Ted, soft power. But with the number of universities that we have that are propped up by foreign students, if we cut that away, a lot of these institutions would just fall apart financially, wouldn't they? They're not actually providing a good enough service to British people.
Well, this is one of my points of contention, that so many people... I went to the University of Leeds. My offer was 3 A's. That was the standard offer for politics at University of Leeds. For an international student, it was 2 C's and a D.
Because they're money makers.
Because they're money makers. So we need to get rid of that. If some universities fail, really, should we be propping them up?
For the same degree course?
For the same degree course.
So then, essentially, did you find that the first year was all about just bringing everyone up to speed with a basic level?
There were people with translators in our lectures.
With translators?
Yes.
In your lectures. When you see that, when you hear about that, Charlie, you must be thinking, why on earth are these courses even running? They're just to con people into making cash.
They're putting bums on seats. They're conning people. If they was a business, they would be out of business.
So what's the alternative then to young people who are thinking university?
The universities, they should turn them into technical colleges and train people up in the trade. But you're saying no, Ted, but why would you say no? You're working for a charity place. I mean, you know, that ain't going to set the world alight, is it?
Fighting talk.
Look, if you train in a trade, yes, that's brilliant if you're going to become a tradesman. If you're going to become a researcher, if you're going to become a scientist...
You wouldn't take a course on trade then, would you?
Well, you're talking about turning universities into trade colleges. It's just not feasible.
Why not?
It's just not feasible.
Well, 77,000 plumbers short. Imagine all the other builders.
I think what we need to do is build up people to go to actual trade colleges if that's what they want to do, because they can get a steady job from it and get a very good earning about it.
But they're being conned in going to the university. That's what I'm saying to you. They need to be saying...
Well, I'm agreeing with you there. I don't think people should be pushed down the university
It's
route.
an old-fashioned idea, and it's out of date. It's old-fashioned. The people that need to go on the university, of course they should go. But, you know, there's loads and loads of people. It's totally unnecessary. They'll earn a fortune, and you've just got to change the way. I personally think 50% of people that go to university, there's no point in going. Waste of money. And this figure here, 260 billion debt, I mean, can we afford that? I mean, would you keep pushing people to university, you know, yourself, Ted, would you push people to university knowing if they want to be a plumber or something, they get 100, 150 grand a year?
Well, I think that's the thing, Charlie. If people know they want to be a plumber, they'll go to plumbing college. If people want something that's kind of more intellectual, that university is going to prop them up to do, they'll go to university, and that's the real argument.
Of course, but I'm saying a lot of people are not going to make it. 40 to 60% drop out on the first year. But surely you should be training for a job that's going to be there in the future. In maybe 5 years with all this AI, there might not be a job for you guys out there. Maybe you'll be a plumber.
Well, Ted, hopefully you'll buck that trend and we'll defeat AI in the future. But yes, Ted Newson and Charlie Mullins, great points, both of you.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
You know, there are less graduate jobs going at the moment than there were, 50% down on last year. Thanks, Rachel Reeves.
I studied philosophy at university. It didn't do me an enormous amount of good, but it gave me a lot of free time to do something else and get ready for this league.
Aren't you?
Oh, you're very
That was worth all the money, wasn't it? I did languages, and here I am speaking in English.
What did you learn?
French and German.
Do you want to do this bit in German?
9.
OK, lots more coming up on today's show, such as why have Morocco been awarded the AFCON title months after the final took place? We'll be finding more about that after the break.
We will indeed, but it's time for some holiday sun weather forecast.
France, Germany.
Egypt.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy showers will continue to affect parts of Greece and Turkey for the next couple of days. The south of France, probably the best place to be around the Mediterranean for sunshine over the next few days. Not just Greece and Turkey seeing the showers, parts of southern Italy also. Corsica, Sardinia seeing sunny skies on Thursday. There's the sunshine for Nice and much of the east of Spain and the Balearics too. But looking very wet in the Algarve, and this is part of a big storm system bringing wet and windy weather to the Madeira and the Canaries for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis. In the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10-3, and the Senegalese national team are refusing to hand back their African Cup of Nations trophy and also subsequently threatened legal action if they were stripped of the title.
Oh, my goodness me. Well, on Tuesday night, the Confederation of African Football decided to reverse the result of the tournament, awarding now Morocco a retrospective 3-0 win 58 days after they lost.
Well, we're joined now by a senior sports reporter at News 24, Kanesu Terewaku. Kanesu, thank you very much for joining us. Talk us through what's happened here. Why has it taken 2 months for us to find out who won that game of football?
Good afternoon, guys, and good afternoon to the viewers. Look, that's what we need to find out, because when you look at the wording of the appeal that was lodged by the Royal Moroccan Football Federation, they've cited Article 82 and Article 84 from a forfeiture perspective. However, though, the two articles need to be read in accordance with Article 83. And it says that Article 82 and Article 84 read together have led the CAF Appeals Board to arrive at this particular decision. However, the Article 83 is actually quite interesting because it reads as follows: that a team shall not be present on the ground, dressed to play at the time or fixed for kickoff, almost 15 minutes later shall forfeit the match. That game was played to a finish. So it's going to be interesting to see what Senegal's Football Association does from this perspective, because yes, there was a hold-up in the game. How long the hold-up was? Was it 15 minutes? That's the interesting part. And then secondly, the game was played to finish. The game went to extra time, and then Senegal won in extra time. So it's going to be interesting to see what grounds the Senegal Football Association will use to lodge a case with the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
I mean, what about the Senegalese people themselves, the football fans? I mean, are they up in arms?
They have to be. They have to be. And I think, remember that this was a tournament, for all intents and purposes, that was mired in inconsistent officiating. And it just so happened that a lot of inconsistent officiating had to do with Morocco games. I mean, there was the shabby treatment of the goalkeepers by the ball boys in the semifinals and in the finals. And that's something probably that a complaint that should have been raised by the Nigerian Football Federation, by the Senegalese Football Federation. They didn't. They had the rightly so, because on the field, the side Senegal won the game. The officiating left a lot to be desired in that final. Even the awarding on the penalty itself left a lot to be desired. Okay. So, look, this is going to test CAF's resolve. I mean, CAF initially by fining...
Can you see, we're going to have to leave it there, but it's a totally dramatic turn of events, so there you go, one to watch. Kanisu Tareku, thank you very much indeed for your time. Have a good one.
Well, thank you very much. It's been brilliant to have your company, brilliant working with you. Thanks for watching Good Afternoon Britain, but don't go anywhere. Who's up next?
Martin
Daubney.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Warm out there today, certainly across England and Wales, where it's generally blue skies all the way. It is cloudier for Scotland and Northern Ireland. There's a little bit of rain around. There's a weather front straddling Scotland and Northern Ireland. High pressure gathering in from either side. They're ringing out that weather front. Still, though, thick enough to provide quite a cloudy scene for much of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. May even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle here across Northern Ireland. A few showers in the far north. Much of central and northeast Scotland dry and sunny, and then lots of sunshine for England and Wales. It is quite gusty across the southwest of England. Temperatures getting into the mid or high teens, likely to reach 20 Celsius across parts of West Wales. Further north, not quite as warm because we've got more cloud around. Still providing a little bit of rain and drizzle for the north coast of Northern Ireland into southwest Scotland. May see a few spots in Glasgow. The odd shower drifting through Caithness, Sutherland, up towards Orkney into this evening too. But generally, it's a dry evening for most of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a cracking end to the day for most of England and Wales. There is this breeze, as I said, providing some gusty conditions, bouncing over the hills in southwest England. That is quite noticeable, but generally we'll keep the clear skies through the nights. Might see a little bit of mist and fog forming. The clouds should break up a little more for Northern Ireland through the nights, but staying quite thick over eastern Scotland. Could see some drizzly rain along the east coast, pushing down towards the southeast for morning time. Temperatures will fall away with those clear skies. Rural spots may just dip close to freezing. Towns and cities starting at 3 to 5 degrees. So yes, a chilly start to Thursday, but again, plenty of sunshine. Should be a sunny day for Northern Ireland tomorrow. Still quite cloudy over central and eastern Scotland. A little bit of drizzly rain possible here, but brighter skies across the far northwest. And again, for most of England and Wales, it will be sunny and warm, just maybe not quite as warm as today. That's all for now. Goodbye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benivan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been brought